Hey everybody, why should we teach the fine arts in schools? Well,
Human civilization began by taking care of their basic needs: a full belly, quenched thirst, a sheltered body, and social bonding. These are necessities, that is, these are conditions or situations in which something must be supplied in order for a desire to be achieved, or a desired state to be achieved, which, when satisfied, will result in, well, civilization itself. Therefore, a civilization on the brink of extinction spends the vast majority, if not every moment of its existence, doing what satisfies its most basic desires. This is not to say that all needs are met. Only the basic cravings of which one is made aware reveal a need. To clarify, a general sense of the word craving is not equivalent to a basic craving. A basic craving of which I speak is induced by natural processes without the interference of foreign substances introduced later in life. Exempli gratia. One does not crave chocolate who has never tasted it, but all people crave water from birth. When the most basic cravings of the body are satisfied, then new needs, the next tier of desires, are revealed. When a civilization's basic cravings are met with a reliable source of satisfaction, then those basic cravings decrease, sometimes to the point of dissatisfaction with the means by which satisfaction of such needs is given. And, well, the means by which satisfaction of needs is given is really not important whenever you're starving to death. You just want food. But once you're full, the desire for the supplying of the needs, that is, receiving what one needs to keep the mind and body in their natural state of health and growth, is now overpowered by the desire for something different or new. Not just what is provided, but how. A form of provision that involves elements unnecessary for survival, which convince the body that its basic craving is still satisfied just as fully as before it grew weary of the fundamental form of provision. Now, when these additives are seen, tasted, heard, smelled, touched, or sensed any other way, this information from outside the body is received by the sensory organs, transferred through your nervous system to your brain, which then responds as if a fundamental need, which had already been provided, was lacking and is now provided, signaling for the release of the molecules, hormones, and/or neurotransmitters that give you the satisfied, happy feeling. According to Dr. Irvin Biederman, a neuroscientist at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles, this is how our brains were designed. They were designed to seek out new things, differences or variations. To your brain, after receiving the same stimulation from the same food within a certain time frame, it can begin to treat the stimulus as if it comes from that which is not necessary, as if you are full, and yet you are hungry, and that particular food will just not suffice. The brain is wired for change. No wonder then, for example, that the human eye shifts focus on an average of 2 times each second. However small the change, the brain was designed to seek it out. This is important because change results in stimulation, stimulation results in sensation, and sensation results in, or according to some, is consciousness. That is one of the basic functions of the brain itself, bringing about awareness of the world around us and sharing that awareness with you. Forsooth, stimulation requires change, and it exists through space and time. If stimulation requires change in space and time, and the change in one point in space is the same for longer than the time your brain needs to declare satisfaction, then this change becomes the same change, and is therefore no longer change. It's now sameness. For the brain, this means that through the time after which the need is met, the stimulation weakens, and likewise the sensation, resulting in the perception that there is no new change anymore, but rather the same change as before, as if it were from a former time and not the present, which in the present time would be considered non-existent change, since something deemed to exist solely in the past is deemed non-existent in the present. Thus, different stimulation is now desired. As a side note, former changes can be deemed as new if enough time has passed since the change's cessation. Therefore, because the brain's hardware makes it naturally attracted to change versus monotony or stagnation, the following experiences play out in a civilization. First, people crave food, water, shelter, and basic social interaction to keep their minds and bodies in their natural state of healthy growth. Then, people spend all their time preparing for and engaging in the satisfaction of their basic cravings: farming, hunting, digging wells, building houses, conversing, sleeping, etc. Then, with the development of new technology, shelter and farming preparations complete, and a growing population among whom work can be more widely distributed, the people establish a system of provision that becomes more self-sufficient and requires less labor and or time to sustain it. And then, people have more time in which they do not need to work to provide for their basic cravings. The threat of want is diminished. And then, the sensation caused by the continual newness or change brought on by the cycle of provision and the following threat of starvation, dehydration, danger from the elements, and societal rejection. This cycle of continuous change from provision to threat of loss and back to provision has ceased, and the brain is searching for stimulus. Food, shelter, water, and all of the basic cravings are continuously satisfied now, and the stimulation from this satisfaction lessens to the point of dissatisfaction. People begin to seek out new ways to satisfy their basic cravings differently, and even satisfy them in more effective ways. Building materials, forms of structures, foods, drinks, and different societal interactions. As they do this, they realize that there are many different ways to more efficiently make provisions, and they can pick up and choose which ways they wish to do this. The basics are provided for: food, drink, shelter, and social interaction. But now houses with all manner of colors, shapes, sizes, and materials exist, as well as clothing of all manner of colors and materials. They soon realize that they can use various materials with a variety of colors, structures, and tools to make depictions of people, places, objects, and concepts in the real world, to decorate, tell stories, and express their beliefs, feelings, and other thoughts. Things that they have always wanted to express, but sometimes felt that they could not adequately express in words. Now they have another powerful medium of expression in this civilization. Visual art is established. People have realized that sound produced by the human body and outside sources can be organized into distinct rhythms and pitches of varying volumes, and that different materials, shapes, and sizes of physical entities create unique sounds unlike those of others. People use their bodies and other physical objects to make new organizations of sound. They realize that these organizations of sounds are very stimulating and evoke swaying, tapping, clapping, jumping, and all manner of bodily motions otherwise that correlate to the elements of the sounds themselves, and they develop organizations of such movements that do not produce sound to incorporate into the performance of the sounds themselves. Music and dance is established. Because of the continuous stream of change and newness brought about by these discoveries, new and diverse visual art, music, and dance, to name a few, with ever-changing outcomes and unceasingly surprising and exciting elements of those disciplines for those who partake of these activities, the people take it upon themselves to teach what they have learned to others, especially the next generation. They then realize that it takes much studying, time, and practice to become a master of these activities, and the general population, though they have more free time than before, still have other responsibilities and cannot take the time to help the next generation become proficient in all these disciplines. However, they know that if they leave it to the masses who do not have the time to teach these things, these fine arts will either be lost or remain something wonderful that only a few that are more well off than most would know how to create and enjoy to the fullest. Thus, the people decide to seek out those who are masters at creating such art and agree to give them provisions or pay them to teach these arts of visual art, music, dance, and others to the next generation. This is not because it is necessary for survival, but because it has made life so much more fulfilling, so much more exciting, and more like life than mere existence. Public fine arts education has now been established in our civilization. Without creating art, physical existence would simply be eating, drinking, building, basic interaction, and developing more methods to help more people eat, drink, build, and interact. That's survival. However, with these fine arts, life becomes much more like life than survival. This is why we teach the arts. It is not necessary for survival, but it is necessary for something more.